divine timing right there.
Yeah.
Hey, FTF Radio, what's going on, my brother?
Shoot, chilling.
Come on,
chilling.
we posted, we active. It's been a cool day.
We had a nice little warm up session on the Smash Bros.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just let them know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? What I will let them know is that I got to come back. I got to get my get back. I got to come through with my controller.
Get your lick back.
Yeah, I need it back.
Hey, come on. This is the first. It's never been done before.
Yeah,
it's never been done before. That was crazy. And also, I'm just getting back in my Smash routine. FTF Radio. I'm sitting here with my brother Dezmundo. Most of you know him for his artwork and his paint brush strokes on the internet, around the city. The first time we met was in person at a show years back.
I think like 2015, maybe.
Right. That's what we going on.
You remember Say Yes?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And that was the first show. Yeah. I started thinking about the warehouse event that we took that photo, the notorious jean denim jacket photo.
Yeah. No, it was even before that. Yeah. Like I remember peeping.
Say Yes.
North Hollywood. Say Yes, North Hollywood. That was when I was like meeting a lot of different artists from all different like disciplines and everything. You feel me? Like painters, curators, people who make music, performances, all that.
It was like a whole time.
A whole time, yeah. And I just remember just like, man, like they really had like dope artists come up. And I remember like when you came up, like you really had the crowd going. I was just like, oh man, who is this dude? True, like
that was a time.
Like,
shout out Say Yes. Yeah, shout out Say Yes. That was a time. I feel like that was also an era. I feel like where the flow was. Those were the spots we were going to just on the regular.
Yeah,
it was just
easy.
It was there.
Yeah,
it was there. So let's catch people up. Who are you? What are you doing? What's exciting you right now?
All right, so my name is Desmond. I go by Dezmundo. That's my artist name. Right now, I'm working as a full-time artist, part-time electrician.
Come on.
Charged up. Trying to figure out ways to get this bread, you feel me? But right now, I'm like in the midst of a couple of different, artistic opportunities, potential murals coming up. I'm in the talks with a principal at one of these middle schools right now for some work that she's trying to get done. So I'm not going to say, what school it is or whatever until like it's all locked in. But I got that on the horizon. And I've had some other murals in the past. I got one notable mural that I did with one of my mentors, Moses Ball, over on Crenshaw and Slauson.
Fire.
Yeah.
Which also is we both from South Central. We out there. Yeah. Folks really don't. I don't think folks really know. Like Dez is a South Central artist, South Central native.
I grew up over in Inglewood, off of like Manchester and Crenshaw.
You feel me? It hits different. You know what I'm saying? It hits different. Even thinking. I mean, that's why a sickler. We'll get into it, but a full circle moment doing Sound Mind Body at the location it was. But also part-time electrician, bro. You gotta stay charged up, and you work in solar. It's pretty dope. It's a pretty dope industry. I mean, I understand that from the context of like I be hearing my pops talk about solar all the time. Like he actually might. You probably need to tap in with you. Yeah,
all that.
Yeah, he might need to tap in with you for the farm. We'll circle back to that. Okay. Yeah, you feel me? So right now, I know. Look, it's such a time that we're in, right? What are the things that you're drawing to for motivation, for inspiration, as far as being consistent with, like you say, you're amidst so many opportunities, amidst so much figuring out, and amidst so much actively showing up in so many spaces? What are the things that you're drawing to for your inspiration, your sustainability, just keeping your energy up?
I would say right now, right? So I'm 29. I'm probably like 6-ish or so months away from hitting 30. And, I'm getting close to that stage in my life right now where I am starting to think about like, family, legacy, what comes after all of this, right? There's still so much that I want to achieve, but at the same time too, I don't want to miss the opportunities as they come where, I can prepare for a potential future family and setting them up because, I've been reflecting a lot on, my grandparents, right? They're getting up there in age. They have their own issues and things that they going through right now. And me and my family, we doing the best we can to make sure that they're well accommodated, as they sunset.
First, yeah, for the family, FTF.
Mm-hmm. And then, they done so much for me and the rest of the family, just setting that foundation. And I'm very grateful for that. I can really see it so much more clearly now that I'm, coming up in age and seeing that torch get passed along. So, it has me thinking about like, okay, so how do I take my passions, the things that I can contribute, and make that, part of that bedrock, that part of that foundation that my family has set up, and continue the legacy. So that's been very motivational for me as of late. I just think that, when I was younger, it wasn't as much of a thought. I was, I'm just in my me mode or whatever. I'm thinking about just, I'm just thinking about me and my friends, but also now thinking like, well, our time gonna come eventually. Like, we gonna get old. The torch is gonna get passed.
Right.
So,
what seeds are you planting? What are you cultivating?
Exactly.
You speak on lineage. Lineage is so important. I mean, I think about that a lot as an artist. We're always going back and thinking about who came before, who inspired us, what are we drawing from, art history, techniques. Like these are all iterations of lineage. Like, but that's important. Like when it comes to family and like that awareness makes you move different. Would you say? Like,
yeah, no, most definitely. It's the purpose for the things are a little bit different. As opposed to certain priorities that I may have had as far as, what I wanted to have out of notoriety or recognition as an artist, now it's like, well, sustainability and impact, right?
Absolutely.
Because I can't chase like a very short-term goal and expect that to, propagate later on in the future as a long-term positive. So I'm thinking about,
Facts.
Like how the art that I make now is going to be received by my kids or grandkids or whatever, the community. So yeah, a lot of that stuff just, it gives me a lot to think about.
Absolutely.
It definitely makes a difference, makes you move a little.
That makes me remember just a few weeks, or actually maybe it was a month ago now, before I went out to New York, I had stopped by your studio.
Yeah.
And we did, and we'll include a clip of that so folks can kind of hear that dialogue that we were in.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the photo of your mother next to the piece. I think that was a really dope, that whole story, what you were sharing with me about your road trip across country and everything, and stopping and spending time. I feel like that really ties into what you just said, because that piece. Do you want to tap in about that?
Yeah. So that was like a very that whole road trip was interesting. I was on the road. Was it 2021? I drove from LA all the way out to New York, and so to get there and come back was about 45 days on the road. I went by myself. I spent some time over in Louisiana with my mom for Thanksgiving and all that. So this was like in November. Yeah. November going into December. And when I got over there into Louisiana and everything, I spent time with my mom as I normally do. And, we had an experience together. I guess I can say it on the podcast if we can edit it out or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, we here. It's open for it's open. It's open.
Yeah. So I had did mushrooms with my mom. I did magic mushrooms with my mom. I had done it before. Right. My mom had never done it. She didn't know nothing about it. Right. But my mom, she trusts me, and I told her just like, okay, well, this is what the experience is going to be. And part of what I was hoping for out of the whole thing was to, help her see her life in a bigger context, at least to what I thought it was, right? Because in my head at the time, I'm like, well, my mom, she placed so much importance on me and my brother and everything, and to the point where she's just like, she would tell me like, I feel like my purpose in life was to just have you and your brother, and I'd be like, well, I feel like it could be more than just us,
right?
Like, right. I feel like it should be more than just that. And so I was hoping that with the mushrooms, maybe it would, reopen or rekindle some interest back in some lost passion or whatever it might have been, and I would help her go through that journey. And it didn't really go that way. And instead, we ended up looking at all these old pictures. We had a good time. But, my mom, she always even back when she used to live out here in California, she would always want to have like me and my brother like sit down with her and look at all these like old pictures and stuff. And I'd be like, I ain't trying to look at all these old pictures. Right, I ain't trying to look at the past. Like I'm thinking about what's next, what's coming forward, whatever. Like I don't want to look at old pictures. Like there'll be time for that later. But then that time came, and so we looking at these pictures, and it's really like I'm time traveling, bro.
Wow, yeah.
And, I'm just like, whoa, like it's like. I'm seeing these pictures of me with my mom and my dad and the rest of my family and stuff. I'm just seeing all this stuff that's just, unlocking memories, things that I kind of forgot about. And amongst all that, my mom, she had this picture of her while she was pregnant. And I was just like, man, like, this is a powerful picture. And she was telling me about it. She was like, yeah, back when I used to work at Ralph's, there was this guy, he was an artist, and he asked me to take this picture because he was just like, he's seen that she was pregnant. And he was like, I want to do like a portrait of like a pregnant woman.
Right.
And so he asked her to take that picture so he could use as like a reference or whatever. And, he ended up not even doing it. He didn't get the picture, none of that. So, it was just like, oh, okay, whatever, My mom wasn't worried about it. And I remember in that moment, like I just it just clicked with me where I was just like he didn't do it because it's for me to do.
Yeah.
And to.
I got chills when the first time I had heard that because that's so cyclical moments.
Yeah, it was a full circle moment where it was just like, man, and just on the whole psychedelic tip of it all, like it really, painting that picture, like I really wanted to highlight that feeling that I had in the portrait where it was like this feeling of being back in the womb, back at home, like where it's like there's no concept of me or my mom or anything separate. Like it's all that's just my universe at that point in time. There is nothing else other than
what you're.
Yeah, I'm just in the womb, and yeah, so I really wanted to highlight that because that is part of how that journey kind of felt. Like it just felt like I just clocked all the way back and had to have a whole rebirth. And so I took that picture with me. I was like, I'm bringing this home, and nice. I'm gonna work on.
Look, we gonna keep this and do it justice. Yes. Do it right.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's so cool too. I feel like a lot of just that notion of returning to and remembrance and the awareness of a womb always seems to come back in those experiences. Also, just in practice, like. It's always about remembering your why, who you are, where you're coming from. So, when you look through these kind of moments, it's like you can't help but to wonder about what's next. After seeing so much, I feel that it's like, damn, like I'm not trying to like look through all of this, and then those moments of nostalgia like breed so many visions for the future, which is so ironic in that when it's kind of ironic, but that piece was. Just for what I had seen in the studio, it was fantastic. A lot of your work seems to revolve around. I won't say a lot of because I feel like you are a very diverse artist in what you do in your practice and where you're jumping around. I feel like there's a lot of work that's around remembering to the womb. How would you describe the themes and the ideas that you play with in your work?
So I think the primary theme that I think I like to play around with in my work is like duality, from like a spiritual level. I like to juxtapose things. So, I have like one scene that I painted. It was like these two dogs, and from a reference that I pulled off of, it was like they were either fighting or playing or whatever the case may have been, and in my mind start working where it's just like, okay, well, like. Dogs always kind of, biting at each other, whatever they in play, or they trying to establish their dominance, whatever it is. And, I don't know, like the web of thoughts just kind of trickle out from there where it's just like, well, what is this? It's a dog eat dog world. I think about these sort of sayings of just like, do all dogs go to heaven type things. So I'm like, let me put some wings on the dogs or whatever. Do they got the pearly gates? Maybe not. Maybe it's a barbed wire fence or whatever around them. And sort of juxtapose like this idea of like divine peace with also like the divine conflict as well, and how like some of these things that may feel uncomfortable to us in our, you know, daily lives, you know, there's something to it that we got to learn from. And so,
absolutely,
you know, like that's for me, like in a lot of my works is I try to make it as multifaceted as I can and really make it kind of think about where the viewer is on their spiritual journey. You know, because I'm thinking about where I'm at on my journey.
You're almost able to put yourself in like these various places at once. Mm-hmm. That's dope.
Yeah. Dope. I just wanted to have those works create that experience. But everything is like there's like that spiritual sort of twinge to everything that I do, because that's always how I've been. It's
like a thread, like you know, that's or a common thread. I'll say like because I definitely get that. And then I mean also. I feel like what maybe people are most familiar with are like a lot of your portraits, but even your portraits like of others, you the one of B that you just put out, the do you know who Callie is, and the whole energy around it, like I love how you take these themes and spirit, like they're the word is exaggerated is not the right term, but the idea that you can amplify that you can amplify through these lenses, especially when it comes to spiritual, and putting these little nodes for people to catch on to. Like, it's like, oh yeah, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you're sending someone to go and look into it in some manner, in some way. Is any of that intentional? Is some of that just you stumble on in the process, and then you're like,
yeah, a lot of that stuff it's honestly keep it G, like it's largely unintentional. There is a baseline intention that I go into. Yeah, there's a root to everything that's very similar across the board. But a lot of times, like I end up understanding or I come to my own understanding of the work after it has been done. You know,
you're almost guided.
Yeah, it definitely is that way for me. Like because I often find that if I try to go in with too sharp and too clear of a notion as to what that painting needs to be, it can never fully become what it was meant to be, because whatever I have in my mind might not be, you know, the end all be all.
Absolutely.
You know, the process of actually putting stuff down, you know, a lot of times I'll have an idea, I have a concept, but when I start painting it and the paint actually starts getting on the canvas and I'm seeing where things are going, then it's just like, oh, you know what, actually let's move it and have this go this way, or there'll be like certain imagery or symbolism or whatever that was never like intentional, you know, from my base concept, and then I'll put it in there, and it'll just be like you know, a spur of the moment thing. Like I don't know, I just felt like it, you know, I was just feeling it. Like a self portrait that I did. I don't think you got a chance to see it. Maybe the next time you come to the studio, but I did this self portrait of myself where it's like, you know, all black and white or whatever, and I have like sort of like these almost like a cracked, almost like I'm made out of like a cracked carbon, and underneath the carbon, you know, like there's just gold, like everlasting gold or whatever.
I didn't peep that.
Yeah, it wasn't there. It wasn't there yet because I had it somewhere else at the time.
Was that the piece that you were talking about was on display at a show somewhere?
Yeah.
How did that show end up going?
It was great. It's over at Speed Los Angeles. Godspeed. That's what it is.
It's still present over there?
No, I have it back at the studio now. Yeah, because now they're rotating through with shows and everything over there. But yeah, Godspeed is the studio venue space where that was hosted at, and that was a good time. Yeah, great reception. You know, people were really feeling it. But yeah, just to finish or round off that point, was one of the things that, you know, I ended up including into that piece was like, you know, I wanted to have like a nice gold rolly chain. I'm like, I don't have a chain. I don't have a gold chain, but I wanted to put it on there because it just felt right. And, you know, then in hindsight, I'm thinking about, why did I want to put a chain on them, you know? And again, it just kind of harkens back a little bit to like childhood, right? You know, I remember growing up, my dad had a gold chain. I'm like, man, you know, as a kid, I don't know what the value of gold is. I don't know nothing about any of that, but I'm just
fucking with it. Like,
I'm like, it look nice. That's kind of clean. Like, I want one of those. And my dad, he'd be like, "Oh, you want one of these? Like, you gonna have to go earn your own.
You want one of these? You want one of these?
You gonna have to go earn it.
Yeah, go ahead, go get that.
Go get it for yourself. Yeah, it's not gonna get handed to you.
That's facts.
So I'm like, okay, for sure. Like one day I'll get to a point where I get my own nice gold chain or something.
What were some of those what are some of those moments, I guess, not and if we want to come back to something, we can with this. But that makes me think, what are some of those early moments that Dez had picking up a paintbrush? The earliest memories you could think about, or even just messing with any kind of visual medium.
My earliest memories, it was drawing. I was probably like in preschool. This is like, you know, very early core memories where my memory is just splotchy. It's just like a couple of little snippets or scenes.
Isn't it crazy how the brain works like that, though? It's like, wow.
There's no consistent, line of memory.
No.
Oh, my sound cut out? I'm good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the earliest memory that I have of that was, I remember, picking up, I think it was a pen. It was a pen or a pencil, I can't remember. But it was a little notepad that my mom had. She'd keep her little notes and stuff in it. It was a little spiral thing. It wasn't a full-blown notepad or anything, but it was a little something small. And I remember trying to draw something in there, like based on just what I could see in my mind. Because at that point in time, like I distinctly remember, like I can see in my mind something that I want to put down on the paper.
Right.
It was probably a cartoon or something that I had seen on TV or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna replicate that. I'm gonna do it on the paper. And I remember trying to do it, and it was nothing at all close to what I wanted to. It was just like awkward, and it was just like, what? Like, how do I
really trying to feel like
and it was frustrating. I remember getting upset with it, and I scribbled it all out. I just
Dang, the first masterpiece. Like, he's just like, nah, I'm not having it.
This ain't it.
That's
ain't good
crazy.
enough. So I remember even then, like, having that critique at an early, like, no one had to tell me, like, oh, like, it don't look right. Like, for me, I was just like, nah, I know what I can see in my mind, and what's happening on the paper is not that.
That's sharp. That's very sharp.
So that's like my earliest memory of like even attempting to draw something.
You think that critique kind of how much of that critique is still loud?
Oh, bro,
it's
loud as it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm such a. It's annoying. I have to really fight against those like perfectionistic urges on things. Like I'm very detailed oriented in pretty much everything, bro. Like even when I worked as an electrician, like my higher ups. They'll see some work that I do, like, man, that's clean, like it's sharp, like it's so, easy to, because sometimes guys, they do their work or whatever, they sloppy, put in the box, boom, boom, close it up, it's done. Right. Ain't nobody finna see it, who worried about it? Me, on the other hand, I'm just like, I'm gonna see it. So I'm gonna see that. I care. Yeah, I have a standard work ethic or whatever you want to call it, and so sometimes it can be a little challenging to dial that down a bit to the point where it's like, okay, look, you just gotta just move on. There'll be plenty more work. I had a mentor, from an organization I used to paint with called Pieces. It was for young artists from the ages of 18 to 25. And my mentor's name was Lalo Marquez. Fine. And yeah, he was like the first person who helped me pull, like this is like fast forward, like up to this point in time, from that early childhood to the point where I met Lalo, art for me was just like a little hobby thing that I do sometimes, like I have fun doing it or I enjoy the result. Right. Cool. But Lalo is someone who like pushed me where it's just like, oh, like you working on like this small scale, like let's, try this, come on a big canvas, try and do, let's expand, like let's just, and that was just like a whole nother world where I was just like, oh shit, like I could really, get crazy with this or whatever, and
that person is always so important. That person who's just, here, try this keyboard. Hey, put on this big canvas. Or, hey, shoot this shot. Like, like that person is
opens
that door. Yeah.
And then you don't even know the door is there.
Still just curiosity at that point. When did that curiosity kind of reveal itself to you as to where you wanted to go?
I think for me it was the point at which I decided to like make my first body of work, right? Because everything again up until then or like shortly after meeting Lalo, I was just kind of like I dabble here and there, but there was no real aim or direction to any of it. It was just like I'm just kind of doing stuff,
right.
And so I had in that same organization I met this one girl. Her and I got real close. It was tight, and we eventually went our separate ways and everything, but I had felt, deep. I felt that was like the first person I felt like, oh, like, I think I'm starting to see what this whole love stuff about. You know what I mean? It was very, very magical, or whatever you want to call it. It was very inspiring. And so for me, I was like, man, like, how can I really show my appreciation, or show, like, the experience that I'm having right now through my art? Because I'm not like a wordsmith or whatever. I don't know how to make music, or I'm like, I know how to paint. So I was like, let me use my art as a means to actually communicate this intense feeling that I'm having, and show that gratitude, or just the whole journey. And that body of work took me like 3 years to complete, and I wasn't rushing it, but I was also just like very devoted to getting my message across.
No matter how
long it take, like, that's part of the thing of just like, there's no sense of like, oh, like it has to be done by X amount of time, whatever. Like I was like, I'm gonna let something guide me, however you want to call it God or whatever. But it was just like, this is my spiritual journey. This is like my deep meditation, the thing that's going to allow this work to have the impact that I want it to have. Because I could, sit there and try and be formulaic about it, whatever, but like, I don't think it would have the same depth.
Right. Or even the opposite, just like what they say, just fast fashion would be like the equivalent of, or make a quick little vibe and just be like, oh yeah. But no, that's really deep rooted, letting that intention flow.
Yes.
That's crazy. Do you remember, what did that body of work have a title?
Yeah, I called it Muse 21. And sort of like the idea of it was like, I painted these 21 muses, 20 of which were like women I had never met. I didn't know them or whatever. Like, I just kind of saw them on Instagram and was just like, oh, she's cute. She kind of got a little vibe or whatever. Like, I was like, let me just like play off the vibe that I felt, all these different women were portraying of themselves on Instagram. And then what I was trying to do was like juxtapose this sort of sense that I had prior to that point, where like, I remember the girl that I met before, the girl who I was like deeply in love with, like I had kind of seen her pop up on like Facebook or something like that. Like, she went to my high school. I never like noticed her in high school, but she was looking real cute on Facebook. So I was like, yo, let me shoot my shot. Let me try and see what's good. And I was like really drawn in off this social media presence allure that she had, making up a whole thing in my head, like, oh, her and I, we gonna vibe, we gonna click. Then, come to actually meet her, I'm like, oh, it's not really a thing. Like, I just made it all up in my head, like I just made this whole thing out of nothing. And so I was like, let me just like play off of that with the muses, in a sense of like, I'm gonna try and sit here and make something up. Like, this is all like, there's nothing real deep to it.
Right.
And also call into question, like, what is the point of a muse in like what are we in, the 21st century?
Right.
Right. Because, I think of,
what is that even?
Yeah. I think of like the Mona Lisa or whatever, like the means of what art was doing at that time. It was like also helping to sort of like showcase and sort of make timeless, people of that era or whatever, kind of, I don't want to say like pedestalize them, but just, immortalize, that's the word, to immortalize them. And they didn't have social media. So like, to be painted was really like a real honor, and it was a way to preserve that person in time.
Absolutely.
But then it's like, we fast forward, now everyone got their own page. So what do these muses really need me to paint them for, when they can do it all by themselves? They don't need me to tell a story. They can tell their own stories just fine. And so I wanted to juxtapose this idea that I thought like I was doing things so shallow before. Let me compare that. Let me push that up against like the one person in this series that I do know, who I did have an experience with, and let my artwork, the way that it's portrayed, be informed off of that relationship. So that was kind of like the idea behind that. It got like really, I thought about that shit a lot. It's 3 years in, you think about something a lot to figure out, like, why am I doing this? What's the whole point? Where's this going?
Right.
So, but yeah, that was really what got me kind of like started, as far as thinking like, okay, like making art can be very fulfilling,
right,
spiritually. Like that's for me, is like, that's like me going to church.
Right. Absolutely.
So
you were just talking about this Muse 21 series, which I believe I remember seeing the early the early ends of. I do. So there's a few pieces that you've been sharing right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned the piece that you just had on display. There was also just an incredible piece that came out of the Sound Mind Body presentation that we did. Yeah. What would you say is like your something that you're really excited for the world to be a part of and sharing right now?
Well, I would definitely say it's this new body of work, right? So like the Sound Mind Body piece that I was working on is definitely a part of that like set of work, or it's like the current journey that I'm on. I think my pre-title for that is currently I'm just calling it New Light,
right? Because
a lot of the visual thematic that I want to play around with is like using like gold and reflective qualities in the painting, using stuff like mirrors, using resin, using glitter, whatever I can use that's going to really bounce off and play with light. Because, I think at its root, what I really am looking to do with this set of work and what I'm really excited for people to be able to experience in person, and that's like the key thing, is like making artwork that isn't easily captured on a phone or captured in like some static image where you could just look at it on social media and be like, oh, okay, for sure. Like, I get it. I seen it,
Yeah.
Because I've had that experience so many times, even back when I was doing the Muse 21 stuff, where like people would come to a show and then they see the stuff in person and they'd be like, whoa, like, bro, like, I honestly, like, I did not know like it was like that. You know what I mean? Like,
you love that?
Yeah, it's great. I'd be like, oh yeah, yo, thank you. I appreciate that. But then at the same time, I'd be like, dang, like, because in my head when I post it, I just see the painting that I painted, but there's so much detail that's lost that my mind is like filling in the gaps.
Right.
Whereas for other people, like they don't have, like this is it. This is all that they've seen, so they don't see what I'm seeing in person, and it's a whole thing. So
that seems to always be like a recurring thought process.
Even with music.
Even
with music, bro. Like I know there's definitely been like artists who like I heard like a recording of some of their music and I'd be like, oh, okay, like this cool.
Right.
And then you go to their show and it's just like, whoa, like
it's different.
It's a whole nother vibe.
It's a different experience. Some things have to be experienced in present.
Absolutely. So I want to encourage that.
Yeah, with a lot of your work. Yeah, I would agree. I feel like because anytime I've seen, and this is exciting because I can't remember the last time you had like, here's a Dez world, welcome to Dez. So I know we have a lot to look forward to because we have a lot to look forward to in that regard.
That's the
point.
I
remember, that's always what it's felt like engaging with your work. Once we see it in person, we're not seeing the same things that you were sharing, and it's so exciting.
Yeah.
How does that feel to just be in a flow where you can offer those kind of experiences intentionally or even just stumbling upon it?
I would say right now, like right now, it's a little bit challenging at this point in time because what I had started doing a little bit differently, and I'm changing the strategy a bit, was that I was like going into a lot of it with this intention of like, you know what, I'm a withhold the work. Like I'll put up, an in-process thing of like how the work is coming along, how it's getting created. I'm not posting no static images of my painting to have it not have that impact that I wanted to have, where I'm like, I was trying to do a thing where it's just like, I'm going to just withhold, I'm going to wait, be patient, and then let everyone see everything all at once in person. And I wanted it to be like this rewarding thing where it's like, okay, like if you was riding with the journey, you was curious to see what I had, in store, when the people would actually come, you have that moment, and there's, those initial impressions I think would be a little bit stronger off of that. But at the same time, we are in a space now where with either social media, whatever, like I got to maintain that the social media presence. And
it's
all
a very
stuff.
Interesting time with all that. And even these platforms are going. So
they're moving all over
shifty,
the place.
Very shifty.
Yeah. They got a new thing on Instagram. What is it now?
The Threads thing,
and I'm just like,
and look, you know what? And I'll be the first to say I shrugged off TikTok, and then here I am, and I don't even still to this day I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows?
It might still be a thing, and you got to ride with it. And that's part of playing that game, especially as a creative.
As a business, just thinking about how do we stay present, relevant.
Because I be thinking about it like I'm just an individual, but it's just like, well, in order for that business to thrive, in order for that art to really thrive and go where it needs to go, like I got to use these avenues
and figure out how to make it work
have that
for
healthy
us.
balance, how to make it work for us and everything. So
that's real.
But as of late, things have been a little slow on that front. So I'm like, all right, it's time to start sharing the work, because I hit a little bit of a slowdown after I did the last big painting that I was talking about with the chain and everything. Like that one was like a big triumph for me, where I was just like, all right, I've used all of these different things that I was learning with all the other paintings, and I just let it culminate into this one, moment. Almost like a little magnum opus of sorts. I definitely want to take it bigger and grander.
Fire.
But that's also going to take a little bit more money, a little more time, whatever. So I'm like, this is the best I can do currently. Eventually, I will get to the goal that I set out for. But in the meantime,
I mean, and it's all journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all. But the coolest thing, that I always admire is how I feel like you're one person who, that journey we're invited to be a part of moments as the audience, as peers, as like friends, as co-creators, as a follower. You know what I'm saying? And then also it's like it reflects in the work. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like there's almost like no part of the journey was missed if you didn't necessarily say it. We see it.
Yeah.
Or we experience it down the line. That's really, that's what I felt like walking through your studio, which is the coolest thing.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I guess, do you have a moment in mind that you're gonna again invite people back in to kind of see where you are currently? Or are you waiting for that next moment of presentation?
Yeah. I would say right now it's like waiting for that next moment of presentation, right? So the body of work that I have right now, it's pretty decently sized and everything, and there's a set of work that I would definitely love to show. It's just a matter of like finding the time, the location, whatever. I want to try and get that done this year. Absolutely. That's a goal on that. And then beyond that point, just I would like to sort of continue in the same style, in the same direction that I've been going in, but just go even harder.
Right.
It's just a matter of like, okay, we get the materials, we need like more time because resin stuff. There's stuff that I want to also do. It's like a little preview, but as an electrician, I know how to do a little bit of electrical stuff. I was thinking about ways in which I can incorporate those talents and skills that I have as far as wiring things up. Right. To sort of introduce that into the art and start making, even more dynamic pieces like that.
Right.
But again, it just, it's going to take a lot of experimentation. That's going to take some time. Yeah. So I need to get it first to a point where it's like, okay, well, here's what I got for now. Let's, see how people rocking with it. Let's see where that momentum carries me to. And then I can see how much more ambitious I want to be with it. Because I don't know if you had seen this show. It was the show was called like Eden. It was put together by my friend Taylor Washington, and
I remember. Yeah.
I had put together. This was like one of my more ambitious projects. For me, like creating, a lot of the fun of it is like each piece. Yes, it's an exploration, but I'm also thinking about like what can I do that's going to be a little challenging? Like, how can I push the envelope a little bit? Like that to me also keeps it like fun. It keeps it engaging. It keeps me excited.
Yeah.
Beyond like the big picture stuff, like that's my short term stuff sometimes, where I just like experimenting. Let me see what will pop up right now. And so back then I did a print of a painting that I did. It was a 4 foot by 4 foot painting, and I blew it up to a 10 foot by 10 foot print. Big old giant print. It was like three big rolls of paper or whatever. I set it up on this big old wall that we had at the show. And then I took that painting, I put it into an animation program, and then I like chopped it all up into like several layers, and then had the whole thing animated.
Word.
Took that animation, put it into an augmented reality program where people could pull it up on an app, and then they look at it at the show, and then like in real time be able to see this animation play out in AR, augmented reality. of this gigantic piece. And, you know, that was one of those experiences where I was just like, this is like people. It was hitting, you know, it was hitting for people. They was just like, whoa, like this is some next level.
Future.
I ain't never seen
Eden
nothing
was
like this.
Eden was a few years ago. Also, shout out to Taylor for that. Shout out Taylor Washington.
Yeah,
incredibly dope artist. Just always coming through.
Yeah, a real go getter.
A real go getter for real. That's so ahead of the curve. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to do more of that in the future, but I just, again, this is like, that was my proof of concept. That was the, let me do it for myself first, show that it can be done, show what that vision looks like.
Right.
And then when I get the right resources, the right funding, I'm just like, you give me the resources, I'm gonna go crazier. I'm gonna do even more stuff. So, you know, that takes like, let me find a team, like people who know how to animate, whatever, like, so I can focus on creating more work. Then, you know, be like, okay, like I got my animation team, I got a little direction. I've tried to animate myself. So like I have a sense of,
you got a sense of direction with that.
Yeah, exactly. I can know how to ask for what I want. You know, and it'd still be like that collaborative thing. Cause again, sound, mind, body, right? Like that's part of the experimentation part of it where I'm just like, okay, like that's dope. Like I love the concept. Like let's come into the space together. Let's co-create. Let's see what manifests out of just, you know,
coexisting.
Just the energy exchange in the space in real time. Yeah. So
which will also be on the look for that full video is going to be incredible. I'm really excited for that. Really excited for that. FTF Radio, we're here with Dez. This feels like a good moment. I'm actually going to play one of those Sound Mind Body records, and we'll play a snippet of Horizon. And for those who are viewing, we'll throw up an image so people can see just a little bit of that, a bit of what that process was like. And when we get back, we'll jump back in. FTF Radio, here with my brother Dez. Yeah, Sound Mind Body, that was, and it's crazy, bro. Like, time flies. Time flies.
It's getting faster and faster.
Yeah, but you know, and publicly, let me thank you for being a part of that, because that was such just an inkling of a proof of concept. You know what I'm saying? Just figuring things out, and I feel like the next iteration of that, it just keeps expanding, right? It's like what you're talking about, just what we can do with more resource, more, and that was my favorite. I think that was the first time I'd done anything like that. The pieces that came out of that, the moments that came out of that, the sounds that came out of that was something that is just really special. So thank you for bringing all that you did to that.
Thank you. You were the one who thought to bring me into it, and I was like, yeah, this man choosing the right guy. Like I'm here for that.
Hey, we got plenty more to do. We got plenty more to do. I do want people, before we get out of here, I want people to know. I think there was a conversation that I really enjoyed that we kind of dabbled back and forth on around this sense of why, this sense of like you mentioned, purpose. I want you to kind of think about I don't know, it's like you mentioned Lineage earlier. You were talking about how to express these things that we're not saying with words. For an artist out there who, especially for a lot of our black artists, our artists and minorities who don't have that same access that, I mean, we didn't have the same access when we was younger, but we know what we need now. Yeah, like, so for the artists who are thinking about, do they have a shot? Do they have a possibility there? What would you have to say to somebody like that who's asking themselves why?
So what I would say with that is it all starts with you. You are your unlimited resource. You gotta look within your own life, within your own relationships, and really start asking yourself, like, what is it that is, you know, what is most important to you? Where is it that you want to go? Where you know, what was your starting point? You got to really do a lot of self-reflection to be able to find out, you know, what it is that you might have to say. And the other thing of it too, because it's something that I struggle with, you know, and I think people are going to have like varying degrees of overcoming this, but I think it's one of the biggest things that holds people back is, you know, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to just start something. You don't need to have like all the resources right away. It's best. Sometimes your best work is going to come out of those limitations. The limitations are actually, they work to your advantage, because the moment you start having too much resource, too much unlimited access to everything, you get paralysis, you know, choice paralysis. Oh, well, what do I do now that I got all this?
Choice paralysis is real.
Yeah. That's like, you know, a little tangent or whatever, but you know, it's like, it's part of the reason why, like, I'm not finna look at everything on Netflix. I'm not finna, you know, but you know, that's, you know, that's that on that. But like, yeah, don't get too preoccupied with making the excuse of like, oh, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. Like, you have something, you got a pencil and paper, you know, you know somebody or whatever. You could, you know, you got a phone, you can make something happen. You know, you can make anything happen. And yeah, just don't get too caught up in the whole perfectionist aspect of things. Yes, you want to do your best work, but you also want to, you know, give yourself that motivation to push forward, get on to the next project, you know, because you're only going to improve with time. It's a numbers game. And the only experience can really, you know, be that proof that you need. Over time, you're going to start believing in yourself and knowing like, oh, I can do this. Like, I've done it so many times before, and I see my own growth. You get stuck on one thing and it's taking you, you know, 10 years to do one thing. It's just like, you could have done 1,100 things or whatever, you know.
But it's that awareness and that gauge. I know someone's listening who's that's clicking for them right now. Speaking of what projects coming next, where do people keep up with everything going on in your world?
Well, right now my primary outlet is Instagram. So if you guys are out there on Instagram, it's @_Dezmundo. That's _DEZMUNDO. With the underscore at the end, but that's my primary thing. We'll see how the Instagram threads things go. You might find
we'll see how that goes. Right.
You might find me on some new social media. I don't know. Maybe I'll get on TikTok.
Maybe on the spill. Who knows? FTF Radio, and we'll be back. We'll be running this back for another round of Smash, as well as to dive deeper into Sound Mind Body.
I'll come through with my own controller.
Hey, exactly. Come on. Hey, thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. We're grateful. We're grateful you here. Thank you. FTF Radio, stay tuned.